Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you've been jumping into Hytale in early access, you'll already know this game has been getting a ton of updates over the past few weeks, with regular patches and major content updates already out. But this specific hotfix is more focused on smoothing out some of the rough edges and making sure the basics feel solid, and reliable for players across the board. One of the first things that a lot of players have been mentioning is how shadows and lighting were behaving oddly in some worlds, with shadows not rendering properly or flickering in ways that can be distracting or even affect visibility when you're exploring or building. The team has addressed that, so shadows should now display correctly across the game. That might seem like a small visual detail, but when you're running around in Hytale's vibrant environments, having consistent lighting really helps keep the immersion intact. Another big thing this patch tackles is performance, especially for folks with NVIDIA graphics cards. There had been reports of stuttering and a bit of input lag when players were moving or performing actions, which can be particularly noticeable on higher refresh rate monitors or when you're in intense combat or constructing builds really fast. The developers rolled out optimizations to reduce that stuttering and make the controls feel much more responsive, which is something a lot of players will appreciate right away when they jump back in. Now, performance and visuals are one thing, but stability has been a big focus too, because this is early access, and there's still a lot under the hood that's being refined as more and more players log in. In this hotfix, they squashed several crashes players had been running into. Some of the notable ones that have been fixed include crashes tied to weather events, issues triggered when equipping armor, and those frustrating disconnects that could kick you out of a session unexpectedly. On top of that, server stability and login reliability have also been improved, which should help players stay connected more consistently and avoid those moments where you have to reconnect just as you're about to do something important. For the gameplay side of things, there were a few interactions that just weren't behaving exactly as intended. For example, some players found that their compass wasn't pointing in the correct direction, which sounds minor but can throw off navigation when you're traveling across a large world or trying to find specific coordinates. That has now been corrected. Building in creative mode also got a tweak. Placing blocks should feel smoother and more intuitive now, with fewer misplacements or unexpected behavior when you're trying to execute a design idea. Teleportation mechanics also received attention here. Before this hotfix, there were scenarios where players could get caught in an infinite teleport loop, bouncing back and forth between linked teleporters in a way that could trap them or break progression flow. The update adjusts the teleporter logic to prevent that from happening, so your journeys around the world should feel more reliable and predictable. And then there's the matter of weapons and interactive tools. In particular, the crossbow was misfiring or behaving inconsistently in some situations, which could be rough if you rely on ranged combat or just don't want your shots to misfire mid-fight. That's now fixed, and other interaction bugs tied to basic controls and use cases have gotten attention too. So interactions across the board should be more stable and less prone to quirky behavior. It's really interesting to think about how this hotfix fits into the wider development journey for Hytale. The team has been rolling out updates at a pretty rapid pace since the game entered early access, and this is just another example of them listening to feedback and patching things that matter to the community. What's cool about this is that even though the game still has a lot of systems that are growing and evolving, these kinds of iterative improvements help keep the experience feeling polished and playable, even in its early state. So if you've been struggling with any of these issues yourself, like shadow flickering, weird crashes, navigation problems, or weapon quirks, this hotfix should help smooth those out and let you focus more on building, adventuring, and having fun without interruptions. Overall, it's a solid batch of fixes that touch visuals, feel, stability, and core gameplay interactions. And it's good to see these kinds of refinements landing as the game continues to evolve.